I think we've come up with a very well thought through, well designed and innovative way to hybridize and make the best use of private instance of Hedera alongside the mainnet instance.
Rob, we're catching you while you're taking a break, but some huge news came out of Australia, something that you've been working on for a really long time. So we appreciate you coming on and giving us some time.
Yeah, hey, Brandon. Yeah, I'm in my happy place here in Italy, but on a day like today, of course, I had to jump on and talk about the Project Acacia announcement that came out from the Reserve Bank today.
Well, Rob, to start, why don't you just explain what Project Acacia is?
Sure. So, as we've talked before, and because there have been a sequence of announcements to lead us up to today, Acacia is the Reserve Bank of Australia's initiative for this year, for 2025, looking at how different forms of digital money will be used within the Australian digital economy from a tokenization and kind of wholesale financial market settlement perspective. There was a call for projects back in December from across the industry. And this is similar to the CBDC project that they ran 2 years ago, where the industry submitted projects within a theme. In that case, it was CBDCs. This case, it's tokenization of real world assets. And those have been received. They were submitted in February and have the Reserve Bank of Australia, along with their partner in this project, which is the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Centre, who are running this program and are responsible for many things across the Australian economy in terms of the digital finance aspects of strategically looking towards the future. It's a government and private partnership organisation. So together they've been curating these projects, assessing them, assembling the various project participants, and curating them down to a far smaller list of use cases that are all kind of complementary, but also provide the widest range of potential learnings for Project Acacia. And that's what was announced today. The list of projects, actually the list of lead entities that were running projects, because there are 24 different use cases that are included within this final list, and 19 of those are real money pilot projects. So not proofs of concept, not desktop assessments, actual real money pilots. And that's significant, because what that means is that each of those organizations need to consider the risk and compliance and regulatory aspects of what they're doing, in addition to the technical and functionality aspects. So it's a big deal. There are 5 proofs of concept in addition to that, but it's the 19 pilot projects that are going to make some waves, I suspect.
Rob, several weeks ago, we were talking that there was a handful of platforms that, out of those projects you were just referencing to, if they needed a CBDC, these platforms would provide that platform to build those CBDCs on top of. Hedera was one of those platforms. But what actually came out this week is talking about those projects themselves. What's going to be built on top of it? Can you tell us about the ones that AP Plus and Hedera are actually going to be involved with?
Of course, for sure. The concept of Project Acacia doesn't intrinsically require CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and in this case, wholesale CBDCs. But the Reserve Bank anticipated that some or all of the projects that were submitted might want CBDCs, and so had positioned themselves to issue and manage wholesale CBDCs in the event that those projects required them. The CBDC pilot that was run 2 years ago generated many learnings, and so the Reserve Bank was in a very good position to reproduce many of the things that they did then now. But differently from then, where they set up a private fork of Ethereum and ran a private network for CBDC issuance. This time, they've said, if you want CBDCs, then we can accommodate, but you have to run your own network, or you have to have a network which we accept is sufficient for the security and everything else that is necessary for running a pilot, not for a proof of concept, for an actual pilot. And so the four that were announced a month or so ago were the four networks which the projects themselves of those that had been shortlisted at that time had identified as being the networks they wanted to work with. And it's not surprising, I guess, that we, Australian Payments Plus, saw the need or saw an opportunity to work with the CBDC, and the Reserve Bank then suggested that we, because they want private networks, they want to be able to issue CBDC only onto private networks. They then agreed that Hedera could be used as part of our projects. So, which is amazing. And also working with the HashSphere team, with Hashgraph, has made my team a lot more aligned with and closer to how the HashSpheres are being kind of deployed, which is how we're going to do it. That's the rationale, that's the reason that those four networks, which one was a private Ethereum fork, one was a R3 Corda, the Hedera private instance, and one called Red Belly, which is an Australian kind of local network. So that's the position we're in. So our projects where they need a CBDC, those will be issued into a HashSphere. And we've come up with a very innovative way to synchronize between the HashSphere and the public network. Because our use cases, which I suspect you want to talk about in a minute, envisage a world where digital money only exists in public networks. That's where the most utility is. But if you want to collateralize or back it by a CBDC with zero risk central bank money, then we've found a way to do that, which is I think highly innovative and uses the core services of Hedera in a new and exciting way.
Well, let's jump into that. What are those three projects that have been approved, those three use cases?
So there's an Australian Payments Plus media release today, which alludes to the three projects at a very high level. In essence, they are what we refer to as a token interchange. So we envisage a world where Australian Payments Plus runs a future payment scheme where the members issue their own stablecoin. So let's say we have two banks as a part of that scheme, each issuing stablecoin, or let's say one issues a stablecoin and one issues a deposit token. Our project demonstrates how both technically and legally those coins can be atomically swapped at scale, and the rules by which those would be interoperated. The first project that we've been working on for quite some time, actually, the AP Plus has been running a series of proofs of concept over the last couple of years, implementing the Stablecoin Studio, looking at various use cases where we can utilize this technology. And the first one that we introduced into Project Acacia was this token interchange. And the Australian Payments Plus runs schemes. We are the Australian payment scheme operator. And the scheme is not just technology, but also the rules by which the members abide in utilizing that technology. So in a Web3 world, AP Plus might set up a scheme which has new payment rails, blockchains, and stablecoins and DLT, and also operates the rule book for its members that determines how that technology might be used. So what we have done is defined a project which does a stablecoin swap or a stablecoin to deposit token swap, and the rules by which they can be done at scale, and we utilize Hedera for that. And the stablecoins that we interoperate. Let's say there's a red bank and a blue bank, both issuing types of digital money, not entirely the same, so not entirely fungible, but the same, denominated by the same currency. What are the rules that red bank can swap for blue bank? And each of those, and the way that works is by having a central bank digital currency used as a settlement asset between those two types of digital money. That's a fairly basic capability, but it's really critical and essential to more sophisticated and broader use cases. And the second one is just that. Project Acacia and the consultation document originally proposed 5 different settlement models. And each of those different settlement models, so settlement of digital money for digital assets. If I wanted to buy a tokenized carbon credit or a tokenized real estate or a tokenized security with a form of digital money, potentially on different chains with different issuers and different marketplace infrastructure, how would that be done? So what we're looking at is ways of determining how the payments infrastructure for Australia supports the real world asset tokenization settlement mechanisms. And so imagine DVP type mechanisms which do delivery versus payment. We are the payment end of DVP. So we have built a proof of concept which does just that. And it supports financial markets to do settlement and coordinate settlement between parties, between different chains. But with Hedera at the heart of that, again, with this token interchange, as a capability at the center. So that's pretty exciting as well. And it's very much aligned with the themes and the outcomes that the RBA wants to see from Project Acacia. And from an AP Plus perspective, it'll demonstrate how we would fit into a future where everything is tokenized. And the third one, it's quite low-hanging fruit, if you like, because we're looking at ways that we can integrate digital money, stablecoins or deposit tokens, with our retail payments infrastructure, which is called MPP. So, how can I hold a stablecoin and pay it into your bank account, or vice versa? And that's an extension of the existing payment systems. And the reason for that proof of concept is we want to look at ways that also the impact on the current payments infrastructure, both at a technical level and at a rule level, of the introduction of these forms of digital money, which, as we all know, there's this kind of tidal wave of stable coins coming, and we need to be ready for it. So that's the third project that we're running.
Well, it sounds like Hedera is going to be ready for that. So in the past, you said that this isn't just wheel spinning. They aren't just pilots. These are supposed to result in commercial applications. And it makes sense. We started off, they ran the pilots for the CBDCs. Now they're finding ways to use those CBDCs. And I could see that just continuing on. What do you think that next progression, the years to come, will look like as we hopefully revamp the payment systems and other financial systems in Australia?
Well, it sets Australia up for some very informed decisions that many of us believe are imminent, both from a regulatory perspective, but also the market participants and the ecosystem players. Acacia itself is time limited. So, the Project Acacia program concludes with a review and reporting process, which will end at the beginning of next year, first quarter of next year. We'll see the report from it. However, unlike the CBDC pilot 2 years ago, Australia is, and the regulators, the policymakers, are aligning themselves to a new legislation which supports digital assets and digital money that we expect to be brought forward to Parliament within the next 6 to 12 months. So with that in mind, and with the fact that we will have been 19 of these 24 projects are live pilots, so real money pilots. So even though Acacia will have been closed at the end of the year, these businesses, and they're the top end of town businesses as well as fintechs, so there's a broad range of participants. They're not doing it just to spin wheels. They're not just doing it for discovery. We're long past the benefits of closed shop innovation lab type discovery projects. Every single one of these projects that I've spoken to are very, very keen to get a commercial outcome from this experience. And so I wouldn't be at all surprised that both with the tailwind created by Acacia and a far more friendly regulatory environment that we're facing into, we will see many, many commercial consequences of these projects. And the DFCRC is actually set up for commercial outcomes. So the push here really is to find ways to contribute meaningfully to the Australian digital economy. And so, I fully expect many of these projects to really get accelerated out of Project Acacia well.
Well, it's music to my ears. When we first talked about the fact that the CBDC itself would be built on top of a hash sphere, so a private instance of Hedera, I had some concerns around that. But now that I know that these use cases on top of it are going to have to tie into the public network, it's going to have a real impact if these things actually do come to fruition. It's going to have a real impact on the Hedera network. Why should the Hedera community, HBARbarians out there, why should they be excited?
The HBARbarians have got many, many things to be excited about at the moment. And this is, I think, just one small element of a far broader landscape of great news that's coming out. But for this specifically, I think it shows a real world implementation of a hybrid model for HashSphere. There's been a lot of questions about HashSphere, like you said. Is there really any impact on the mainnet? How do we know? I think we've come up with a very well thought through, well designed, and innovative way to hybridize and make the best use of a private instance of Hedera alongside the mainnet instance, which will be repeatable, and the lessons will be learned from doing that. So I think this is a flagship from that perspective. We haven't moved away from the ultimate goal of everything being on the mainnet, which I truly believe in. I think that there's very little benefit to building inside walled gardens. I think we absolutely need a way to interoperate between these networks, and it's driving the pace on the interoperability as well. We will have some great use cases to showcase once we've come through the Acacia experience and into whatever next year holds for for the Australian payments industry.
Well, Rob, I can't say how much I appreciate you taking time off from your vacation there to come on and tell us about this. Congratulations, because I know that you've put in tremendous work on this. So the fact that these projects have gotten approved, you should be really proud of that. So we love that you came on today and come on here most weeks to give us all this great information about Hedera. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Brandon. It's always great to share the good news, and there's plenty of it at the moment. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.